Welcome to, or welcome back to, the Agatha May Detective Agency. I'm Agatha May, and in this episode, we're going to take a look at Dare to Care missions. It was the dream of Micah Francis, but has since been taken over by Charles I Don't Beat My Wife Randall and John Paul I'm a Weenie Miller. But first, I want to let everyone know that the Agatha May website is live. Woohoo! You can go to agathamay.com and check it out, but only if you want. For those of you who are George Fain level members and above, there is bonus material there for you. I'll be working on uploading more documents in the next few weeks. I will make a YouTube post with the password to get into the files for those members. And now on with this mess. And I say mess because I went down so many rabbit holes looking into this, and I still have some unexplored. It's a Swiss cheese landscape of rabbit holes. So I'm going to drag you down a few of them with me and hope that none of us get lost along the way. Recently, I tried to listen to the interview that Flo had with John Paul Miller back in July, but between the bad audio and John Paul's voice, I gave up listening and just read the transcript. I think I'd rather listen to a raccoon fight being piped through an old drive-through speaker than listen to his voice. Part of the interview was about the mission work in Jebrock, Kenya, and this is a video I've been wanting to do for a while, so here we are. I found Jebrock spelled several different ways, but I also found a couple of Facebook pages where citizens of Jebrock post, and it's spelled Jebrock, so that's what I'm going with. Jebrock is designated as a populated place in Vihiga County, Kenya, and is in the sub-county of Hamisi. Jebrock has a main street with shops, and there are a few churches in the area as well as a couple of schools. At least that's what I could see from Google Map images. I tried researching information about it by just looking it up and couldn't find much on it. In fact, I have struggled to find a lot of the information I was wanting, but I did manage to find some information that I didn't even know I wanted. Jebrock is a poor area, but it's not quite as dismal as how John Paul described it in the interview. John Paul was talking about Micah's dream to have a school in Jebrock, and he described it as a place where, quote, "There's no bathrooms, and there's no air conditioner and you have no windows," end quote. According to the Kenya Demographic and Health Survey from 2022, 61% of homes in Vihiga County have at least basic sanitation services. So it seems like claiming there are no bathrooms was a bit of an exaggeration. They have some toilets, okay? It's true there isn't air conditioning, but the average temperature in Jebrock is 77 degrees Fahrenheit or 25 degrees Celsius, and the hottest months average 84 degrees Fahrenheit or 29 degrees Celsius. It is humid because it is in the Lake Victoria Basin, but it's not like it's 125 degrees there in the warm months. I'm sure air conditioning would be nice, but I don't think it's as much of an issue for the Kenyan people as it is for little Princess John Paul. And here's a photo of Charles Randall's church, St. Delight Pentecostal, that is in Jebrock, Kenya. Oh, look, windows. Huh, I guess they have those too. It looks like some of them even open to let in air. And I don't know if you noticed in the previous photos of Jebrock, they have paved roads and electricity. John Paul further stated that, quote, "These children, they live under these huge rocks. Some of them live under these rocks, and some of them live in the woods. Most of them don't have parents, most of them are HIV positive, and we were hoping for 50 to 80 kids, and we got 150 the first day, and by the end of the week we were up to 300 children. And these kids are walking from the woods. They're walking miles and miles and miles and miles just to come and get a shirt, get physical food they can eat." End quote. That might be one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. What other kind of food that you eat is there besides physical food? Virtual food? Make-believe? Are there people out there trying to exist on imagination tacos? And is he honestly saying these kids are living under a rock? What is he talking about? They live in the woods and don't have parents? Does he think there's just a mob of feral children in Jebrock living under rocks and in the woods, surviving on tree bark and grubs? And they somehow hear of free shirts and physical food and go marching for miles and miles and miles and miles in search of these things. How did they even hear about such an event? Also, the HIV rate in Vihiga County is 4.7%, so no, most of the kids are not HIV positive. I have a little bit of a problem believing the story of children marching out of the woods to attend the free actual food and t-shirt party, probably because it's asinine. I'm not saying that this is what happened at all, but if I learned that Charles Randall had these children bust in, I probably wouldn't faint from the shock or even blink from it. As of this recording, the Dare to Care Mission's website is still up, but what does it say exactly? Well, it turns out not a lot. It was thrown up after Micah's death, and it's obvious there wasn't much care or thought put into it. Then again, John Paul did admit in the Flow interview that he hates mission work, so there's that. He's so ministerial. The mission on the website is this, quote, Dare to Care Missions is a ministry under Bishop Charles Randall of St. Delight Ministry, dedicated to building the kingdom of God in Kenya. While we do many local works in Horry County, South Carolina, this particular mission work is mainly focused on the children of Jebrock. We aim to have 300 children receive a Christian education, 2 meals each day, and to take their faith in the Lord Jesus Christ back home to their parents. Jebrock has very few Christian families, so by starting with the younger generation, we hope to reach thousands within the next 20 years. For $300 a year, you can send a child from Africa to Faith First Academy. End quote. The population of Vihiga County doesn't have a current count, but in 2019 it was estimated that by 2023 the population would be 625,765. 571,776 people in Vihiga County identify as Christians. And that's 91%, so it's a little bit of a stretch to say that Jebrock has very few Christian families. In fact, I'd say it's just a big old whopper. The website doesn't have any other information on the mission, so what is actually going on in Jebrock? These pictures that were taken on a Solid Rock church trip look like the kids are attending what seems to be very similar to the vacation Bible school I grew up with. I have reached out to multiple people in an attempt to find out if St. Delight Church is still open there, and if so, if there's a school. The only thing I've gotten back is crickets, and none of them are even the Jiminy variety. Charles Randall started his trips to Kenya in 1999. In April of 2002, an article in the Sun News read, quote, The Reverend Charles Randall followed 7.5 tons of supplies to Mbali, Kenya, and trouble followed him. But he persevered, and his trip in April to help people living in the poverty-stricken nation of 1 million was still a success. I have no idea where the 1 million came from. Mbali has 60,000 residents. Kenya has 55 million. The supplies were delayed in customs, and Old Chuckles said it was because, quote, some people realized the value of the things in that container, and if they could have, they would have sold the supplies right there in the port, end quote. Custom officials didn't sell the supplies, and they were released after the officials visited the medical camp and the praise center where the supplies would be used. The praise center's pastor at the time was Pastor Simeon Jumba, the same Pastor Jumba that has been part of the missions in Jebrock. There was another Sun News article about Charles Randall's work in Kenya that was published May 29, 2013. Quote, The Little River Church, founded 45 years ago by Ollie Mae Randall, has grown well beyond her vision and now includes a church, school, and clinic mission halfway around the globe in Kenya, Africa. The Reverend Charles Randall, pastor of St. Delight Pentecostal Church, was in Kenya in April to oversee construction of the church building foundation and outside walls, and he anticipates returning to the village of Jebrock in July to complete the church, and again in the fall to start construction of a school and a medical clinic. Randall first traveled to Kenya in June 1999 and went there every year, sometimes twice a year, through 2009. Early on, the big focus was on the medical clinic and helping children with HIV and AIDS. In that regard, we have sent 3 cargo ship containers of mostly medical supplies, Randall says. The church started in a bedroom-sized building and for several years was in a large tent which simply wore out. About 3 years ago, we had to give up the little medical building we were renting from an individual who needed the building. This year, we decided to build a church, an academy, and a clinic. In April, Randall traveled to Kenya representing the St. Delight Association of Independent Ministries, of which Randall is the presiding bishop. It is an oversight organization birthed out of St. Delight Church and also including Wellsprings Fellowship and Sacristy in a new building, and Prosperity of the Soul Ministry in Irwin, North Carolina. The association approved $5,000 towards construction of the church and paid Randall's $1,320 airfare. Randall also had donations from the Rotary Club of Little River and St. Delight Church. We were able to put in the foundation and outside walls. We didn't anticipate getting that far. The water supply in Jebrock is a major concern, and Randall wants to make drilling a well a priority. In Kenya, Randall uses only bottled water, even for coffee in the hotel where he stays." End quote. So, as far as I've been able to find, the church building was completed, but there was never a clinic or a school there. Also, Charles goes on mission trips and stays in hotels. That is dedication to the cause right there. One of the rabbit holes I jumped down while researching this led me to a man named Paul Schneider. Paul owns a fertilizer company named Ag USA. You can check it out at ag-usa.net. He sells a seaweed-based fertilizer, and hopefully it works better than their janky website would make you believe. Paul decided that since the seaweed fertilizer works so well on plants, he needed to make the fertilizer safe for human consumption. So he did. He marketed it as Sea Boost, but it's now known as Ocean Treasure. That's so exotic sounding. Paul claims Ocean Treasure cleans your body of heavy metals and that viruses can't reproduce without the aid of heavy metals. And it doesn't even matter if that's true or not, because Paul also sells ionic ocean water named Aquavive and claims it's full of all kinds of dandy stuff from the ocean, like minerals and electrolytes. And it's probably got some fish poop, but Paul doesn't brag about that. The 6 most abundant ions in ocean water are chloride, sodium, magnesium, sulfate, calcium, and potassium. And then Paul claims there are also trace elements in Aquavive that are some of the same elements found in our blood. They include barium, gold, silver, nickel, cobalt, copper, molybdenum, tin, gallium, vanadium, dysprosium, holminium, terbium, lutetium, gadolinium, samarium, bismuth, yttrium, ytterbium, and erbium. Whew. And you know what all those are? They're heavy metals. So Paul sells ocean water, so you have more heavy metals, and then he sells seaweed to help you get rid of the heavy metals. That is quite the business plan, Paul. And are you wondering what Paul has to do with Kenya? Well, you hang on to your bloomers because I'm going to tell you. Paul runs a mission in Kenya named Aid the Children Incorporated. It's a 501c3, and according to their filing with the IRS, it hasn't made more than $50,000 a year since it started in 2010. Well, darn the bad luck for them. And what does Aid the Children do? They provide treatment for HIV-positive children in Kenya, except it's not medicine. It's a supplement. It's Paul's very own Ocean Treasure. Well, how about that? That is just downright fortuitous. It's the biggest happenstance that has ever stanced. You know who Paul worked with in Kenya? Pastor Jumba, the same Pastor Jumba who works with Charles Randall. A 2010 article in Charisma magazine shed light on the partnership between Paul and Pastor Jumba. Quote, "A meeting with charismatic minister Kathy Walters of Good News Fellowship Ministries in Macon, Georgia, led him to Pastor Simeon Kamadi Jumba, who partnered with Schneider last year to test the supplement on 90 HIV-positive children at his St. Delight Community Outreach Ministries in Kisumu, Kenya. Kenyan Pastor Jumba says government officials who helped oversee the study were amazed at the results. The wonder of what happened to those children up to today is an amazement in the village where these children come from," Jumba said in a video interview with Schneider. The government officials, the lab technologists who were taking the samples for testing, after the test they looked at them and they were wondering what has become of them, he added. Because they try nutrition, they try antiretrovirals, and the result hasn't been like what the Sea Boost, the former name of Ocean Treasure, has produced. In Uganda, several children at an orphanage led by Pastor Joseph Mayega were given the Sea Boost liquid, which is mixed in juice or food because of its harsh taste. The ministry reported that all the children saw improvements." End quote. Why hasn't Paul been taking this to doctors and hospitals in Kenya? Why only pastors? Something seems a little fishy. Pun intended. There is a disclaimer on the Aid the Children website. Quote, "We are not doctors or medical physicians. The information and the product on this website are not meant to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Statements on this website have not been evaluated by the FDA. Please note that we do not make claims or guarantee the results listed above. Each individual is uniquely different and may have varying effects from Ocean Treasure. Results may vary per person." End quote. You know why statements on his website haven't been evaluated by the FDA? Because they don't care what he's saying. Supplements haven't been approved by the FDA since 1994. They monitor the manufacturing and packaging and such, but they don't approve the efficacy of any supplement. All you have to do is put a disclaimer that the FDA didn't approve your supplement for anything, and you can suggest that your fish dookie supplement will give you the ability to tap dance while doing a handstand and simultaneously sprout a trumpet vine out of your right ear. Paul did have a letter from a government official about how much the children in Kenya need Ocean Treasure. Fun fact, the Kenyan government is known for being corrupt, and they love taking bribes. Attempts at improvement have been made in their government, but they are still wearing a giant crown of corruption. I can see where the seaweed supplements could give nutrients to the children that they might be missing out on. But is it curing HIV and AIDS? I don't think so. And is it super duper and most highly suspicious that Paul is using a mission to shill his own supplements? Yes. I don't know about you, but I think Paul is a doink, a twit, and a ratchety ne'er-do-well. I think his seaweed isn't the only fertilizer he's slinging. I will be digging into more of this soon, and I think I've only scratched the surface of some of these rabbit holes. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and become a member, as this helps my channel grow. Until next time, stay safe and be happy.